One change that is coming, Buck, I wanted to make sure we hit this. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, formerly the congressman from Florida, from the Daytona area, right, of Florida, am I right? Or St. Augustine. He's been replaced now in his congressional seat, but he is now out. And I wanted to make sure that we played that audio reportedly. I don't think it's officially official yet, but this is our friend Dana Perino announcing this on America's Newsroom a little bit earlier today on Fox News.
All right, there's a breaking news that happened in the commercial break. So what you're looking at photographs right now of Michael Waltz. He is the president's national security advisor, except for we just got news that he is going to be leaving the administration along with his deputy, Alex Wong. Of course, if you might remember the story of Signalgate. I don't know if that's for a particular reason, but there was some consternation among some people about Mike Waltz, who you might remember was a congressman, Green Beret, a long history and career in foreign policy.
All right. So, Buck, you were formerly in the CIA. I think a lot of people don't really understand, candidly, all of the different foreign affair advisor universe appointees. What is this job and what is the significance of someone new just after 100 days in this job from your perspective?
Well, it always depends with each administration how much sway the national security advisor can have for a president and how important he is, right? You have people who are at that Kissinger level. The genesis of the NSC system was back in 1953, who became the president's special assistant for national security affairs, right? So there's been a history of this for a while, the NSC system and the national security advisor. The Robert Cutler, like I said, was the first one. This situation, though, as I see it, Clay, with Waltz, you got a couple of things. And I'm not sure which holds more sway right now, or which was the bigger factor. But you had two things going on. One, you had Signalgate, which I know we shouldn't call it a gate because it wasn't really as big a deal as they were making it sound. Trust me, a few minutes before the Houthi strikes happened, the Houthis were not about to be, hacking into this chat and finding out where things were going and changing it up. But nonetheless, you want to be careful about your comms and you want to have secure comms if you're going to talk about things like that. But why was Jeffrey Goldberg even this whole thing about who was added to the chat? Well, what does that mean? I mean, how would you add somebody that you don't know to a chat? You would have to have their contact information. Okay, so I think this is it's one thing if I'm trying to text Clay and I'm making fun of Jesse Kelly and Jesse, for being too tall, or I don't know, maybe not having the most luxurious mane of hair these days, and I accidentally text Jesse at the same time, thus blowing myself up in the process, both of those guys are in my phone, so that could happen, right? If I had never texted Jesse, had no contact with him in my life, but somehow he was on that text where I'm talking smack, well, that makes no sense. And it made no sense when Mike Waltz was saying that initially. So I think that got a lot of people, they're like, well, is this because Jeffrey Goldberg, it's not just a reporter. He's a reporter who's written national security stories to destroy Trump, to throw elections. I mean, he is as anti-Trump in the national security establishment as you can be. So why is the national security advisor for Trump, in contact with him? That was the question that people were looking at, right? Yes.
Yes. Well, I was just going to say, to be fair, Trump just did an interview with Jeffrey Goldberg. So, and I will say the one thing about Trump that I find endearing and also sometimes crazy, there are probably many things that you could put in that category, but he legitimately believes that anybody who hates him, he can convince they should like him, and continues to do interviews with people who truly hate him.
Well, yes, Trump likes to stick his head in the lion's mouth, so to speak. There's no question about that. And he even tweets about that. But on the Jeffrey Goldberg thing, if Mike Waltz had come out and said, yeah, look, I like to try to push back on the false narratives, and so I will discuss with certain journalists who are opposition to the Trump agenda why they're wrong, I would have said, okay, fine. But he said, oh, no, somebody else added this guy. I didn't add him, but I would never talk to him. And it didn't make sense, man. There was something weird. But look, maybe that was nothing, and maybe that has nothing to do with it. That's one component of this. And I'll just say this. I mean, Mike Waltz, is a patriot, a good guy. I like Mike Waltz. I'm just trying to understand or trying to surmise why he's no longer the national security advisor after 100 days. And the other one, though, is I think maybe the bigger issue, which is more of the policy dispute level. And that is that Waltz, and I know this from interviewing him, is very hawkish on U.S. support to Ukraine and very hawkish on U.S. strikes against Iran, to my recollection. And there is a ascendant faction within the Trump national security world, including Secretary of Defense Hegseth, who are cautious and limited in their support for Ukraine and would rather see us avoid a military strike and possible entanglement against Iran by going after the reactors or backing Israel too much in a strike it may do. And, those are big issues. And when you see those very differently, the friction, I think, Clay, can be a problem for the people making the national security decisions. So those are the two things that I see. Do you see it that way, and is there a third?
No, I think you're right on that. I would also add in that there have been people who have believed that Waltz was not sufficiently diehard Trump. If you go back through his history, there have been talks that in 2016 he wasn't officially enough on the Trump train. Now, the reason why I think you have to just kind of put that out there on the discussion point. The reason why I would discount it is Trump has proven time and again that once you are on board the Trump train with him, he is not a grudge guy. But I do think there are people in his administration that are grudge guys and gals that will constantly kind of come back if there's tension over a current situation and try to reinforce, well, back in 2018, he did say this, or he did say this in 2016. And so I would also point this out, Buck. Trump does not want to give the media anything that the media wants. He didn't act right after the Signal event. He won't give them Pete Hegseth's head on a platter, which is what they seem to be demanding time after time after time. I actually see this in some way as strengthening Hegseth's hand because there has been talk that these two guys were at loggerheads at time over, to your point, what the response should be to Iran. And here's my, look, Iran, I think, is going to be an issue for the rest of all of our lives. I don't think miraculously it's going to go back to 1978 in Tehran when women could walk around in mini skirts and heels, and they were relatively, as a Islam-focused country, relatively modern. I think at some point they are going to get a nuclear weapon, and when they get a nuclear weapon, we're never going to be able to do anything to them again. Because that's why they want the nuclear weapon, because it strengthens them domestically, but also internationally, it sends the message of, if you come after us, we can really obliterate you. That's why Kim Jong-un wants it. So I don't want war, but if there were a way to ensure that Iran never got a nuclear weapon, I think you have to listen to that argument. And I'm skeptical that any sort of negotiation is going to lead to Iran giving up that opportunity, because the value of having a nuclear weapon is so massive that if I were Iranian and I were in some way involved with the Ayatollah Khomeini, if we could make it the Ayatollah Clay would want a nuclear weapon. And we've talked about this with Ukraine. Libya, you mentioned, we had this conversation a few weeks ago. Libya gave up nuclear weapons. Gaddafi was gone soon after. Ukraine gave up nuclear weapons. Russia has now invaded and taken away, 20% of their overall territory. Kim Jong-un wants them. The Ayatollah wants them, because when you have nuclear weapons, you basically create a situation where nobody can come and try to overthrow you. And that's why I don't think Iran is going to give this up. Whatever perspective you want to adopt, attack or not attack, I don't think Iran is going to give up through negotiation their capability to get nuclear weapons. It doesn't make sense to me. I think it doesn't make sense to them. I'm very skeptical that any negotiation is going to lead to a result like that.
So these are obviously weighty issues, and that is why a deep philosophical disagreement among people, I'm talking about in Trump's inner circle, not
Yes.
like between the Democrats and the Republicans. That may be a part of what led to the change up here that has been reported with Mike Waltz's departure as national security advisor. I don't think that this will do what a Pete Hegseth forced resignation would have done, which is feed the piranhas and just make them want more in the media. I think that this is a little more inside baseball to the Trump team and what they need. But I wish Mike Waltz well, and I think that Trump does too. And I'm sure he'll be doing other good stuff going forward. He gave up that seat in Congress here in Florida.
Yeah.
Which is now Randy Fine's. So I hope Randy Fine does a good job. We'll see.
And that's a tough position to be in because as we come back, I mean, 3 months in, I presume he'll probably find a good job going forward. But I imagine if he had known he was going to be out in 3 months, I don't think he would have given up that congressional seat. Look, we wanted to let you all know out there, ton of rain. In fact, the rain just started pouring down as I was talking to you guys during the first break, went downstairs, and rain is pouring down here. Rain and thunderstorms everywhere. And you want clean gutters so you can have a carefree summer. Get yourself hooked up with Leaf Filter. Right now, save 30% off at leaffilter.com/Clay and Buck. Gutter clogs, not just a nuisance. They can cause extensive water damage. Let Leaf Filter's trusted pro help protect your home from flooding, roof damage, rotting, foundation issues, and more. They'll clean out, realign, seal your gutters before installing Leaf Filter's award-winning patented technology. Protect your home. Never clean out gutters again with Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system. Schedule your free inspection up to 30% off your entire purchase at leaffilter.com/Clay and Buck. That's LEAF filter.com/Clay and Buck. See the representative for warranty details. leaffilter.com/Clay and Buck.